Islets is a charming 2D side-scrolling metroidvania with a gorgeous hand-drawn art style that's so fun it'll have you playing for hours. So let's get right into this review and the reasons why I think you should play Islets. And just to be clear, I didn't receive any compensation for this review, bought this game with my own money, and these are just my thoughts on the game. The game is set in a world where there are these giant floating islands, and all the islands kind of smashed together to form one giant floating island. And after they combined, life flourished and became like a really awesome place. So the creatures of the world decided to create these magnetic cores to put into the island so that they will all stay together. And just like we see in the real world, years of neglect caused these cores to kind of stop working, so the islands break apart into separate islands again. They become no longer inhabitable, and the people of the world have to kind of disperse back to the regular land below, and the islands kind of become overrun with monsters, and each year some brave warriors go out in flying ships to try to basically recover these islands and get them back together. In this game you play as Ico, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but you're kind of like a little mouse character that is one of these aspiring warriors to go out and try to reclaim these islands. The world of Islets feels super vibrant and lived in. Feels like these creatures have been here forever and they've just established this new community after the islands separated. And the story is told kind of through your interactions with these creatures and kind of through this mailbox system. You get this mailbox in the very beginning, and the different characters that you meet will send you different letters throughout the game, kind of like show a passage of time, and they'll send you letters on their own experiences through the world, and it's just such a really cool feature. Islets has this just absolutely beautiful, super vibrant hand-drawn art style, and I'm a big fan of the hand-drawn art styles. Games like Cuphead and Hollow Knight, they just look so wonderful, and this game plays really well on the Switch. And you'd think a game that looks this good might not play so well on the Switch, but it runs phenomenally. You know, it doesn't even skip a beat. The character models in this game that just move so smoothly, you could tell that a lot of time and attention went into drawing these characters. And as you travel to different areas of this world, it's very clear that these areas have own environment and their own emotion just by the way they're drawn, the color schemes, the different enemies that you fight. And it's just really interesting when you go from island to island. You could tell these are obviously very, very different places. If I were to describe the music in this game in one term, I'd say it's kind of like a lo-fi chill vibe. The music in this game really goes on to add that environment to these islands, and each island is just like a world in and of itself because of the way that the art and the music come together to create these new worlds. And once you start connecting these islands together, you can see the clear shift in the change of art style and the change of music when you go from island to island. Especially in like one of these islands is kind of more rainy than the other ones. You can definitely, the music makes it feel like it's kind of that rainy day, kind of dreary feel. It's just totally amazing. And one crazy thing is that the music was all composed by a single person, the developer's brother. And yeah, this game was developed by a single person. So Kyle Thompson, the developer, and his brother Eric made this game themselves. And it's just crazy. You'd think that there would be even just a small team of developers making this game, but no, developed by a single person, music composed by a single person. And I guess the gameplay is probably the most important part of a review, and gameplay is really solid here. It's definitely a classic metroidvania style game where you have different maps and you have to find different ways around the map and unlocking different areas by getting different abilities and items and kind of doing a lot of backtracking around. And there's definitely a lot of collecting. You get a lot of items throughout the game and upgrades, so it's that classic metroidvania that I love. Since this is a 2D metroidvania, the platforming is one of the most important parts of this kind of game, and platforming in Islets is totally rock solid. And as you go through the world collecting abilities, platforming becomes easier and easier. And something that this game does really well that I love about classic metroidvanias is that you pick up an ability and you get that aha moment where you realize, wow, that area that I was at before, this is what I need to get through it. Especially one ability, I'm trying not to spoil any of the abilities or any of the things about the game, but you get it and you're like, wow, there were so many parts of the map where there was no way you get to it, and now you know that you can, and it's just crazy. I play this game on like a normal difficulty, and once you kind of get used to the enemy patterns, it's not too difficult. But the bosses were tough. I don't think I beat any of the bosses without dying. I think I died at least once fighting every boss, and once you get used to the patterns though, I mean, it gets a little bit easier, but the bosses were really tough. But the game, although being kind of tough, it is forgiving. Pretty much right before every boss battle, there's a save spot, so if you do die during the boss, you kind of get transferred right outside the gate for the boss, so you just go right back in and try it again, which is really nice. In some games, like even Metroid Dread, I love Metroid Dread. There were some bosses where you had to do some traveling first to get to it, from the save point, and every time you die you have to go back to that save point and do a bunch of traveling through the map to get back to the boss. It's super annoying. I love the fact that it puts you right before the boss again, and it's not like those Souls-like games where you have to like collect your stuff again. You just get right back to the save point, get right back to the boss. If I were to give this game really any kind of criticism, I guess I'd say it's a little bit short. That being said, I mentioned before it was developed by a single person. That and I had so much fun playing it, I just blasted through it over the course of a weekend. So, I mean, it might have just seemed short because it was just so great. And you might ask, do I recommend this game? And, actually, I think I made it pretty obvious in this review that I absolutely love this game. I totally recommend picking it up. If you're a big fan of Metroidvanias like I am, I'm sure I'm going to be making a lot more reviews of games just like this one. So if you're interested, go ahead and click here to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.